Hello viewers, and welcome to the fourth video in this series on the restoration of my Levin 320. This week I really get into fixing the issues with the neck, and there's some good news. So last week I removed the neck, and then a couple of days later I picked the neck up and noticed that the protruding center maple strip had actually sunk back into the neck somewhat, and was actually almost flush except for just the part closest to the heel. Here's another shot of that center strip. If you've seen the early videos, you will notice just how much the center strip has sunk back into place. This confirms my earlier thoughts that it wasn't shrinkage of the timber at all, but something to do with over-tightening the truss rod. Now this makes sense when we have a look at the truss rod design on these guitars. Here's a page from the 1957 Levin catalogue, which has a cutaway drawing showing the truss rod design and how the truss rod is also the top bolt mounting the neck to the body, two ends of the same steel rod. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and forgive me all you Levin fans out there, but I do think this is a design flaw, evidenced by what has happened to my guitar. When one tightens the truss rod, as shown by the large blue arrow at the head end of the neck, it pulls the whole rod forward and adds a downward force on the center strip of wood in the neck, where the red arrow is. With this design, it's imperative when fitting the neck that the bolt holding the neck on pulls the rod downwards through the neck as much as possible. However, I think I've come up with another solution as well. More about that in a minute. I found after cleaning out the old seams and then thoroughly squeezing some glue into the cracks, it took very little effort to push the center maple strip back into place. I used Tight Bond number 1 and clamped it overnight. Yes, that is my kitchen bench. Now, I've taken some precautionary measures to prevent this problem sprouting again by forcing some epoxy resin into the space around the truss rod using a syringe and needle to get it right down into the heel. Now this should stop the truss rod pushing against the wood, but against the resin instead. Squeezing epoxy through a hypodermic needle takes some force, but it is possible. And contrary to this photo, I ended up using the pink one, not the green one, which does have a larger diameter. They're color-coded by size. When remounting, I will make sure I tighten the top bolt properly to ensure that the truss rod is being pulled down through the neck as far as possible. So all this good news has meant that almost no timber had to be removed, no shaving of the center strip, just a little light sanding to clean it up. I sprayed some black and brown tints using an airbrush, then refinished the back of the neck with a clear gloss. This blended in nicely with the existing finish further up the neck, and I have not had to refinish the back of the headstock. Just another shot of the back of the neck after spraying the gloss, but before buffing and polishing. I'm glad I managed to retain most of the original stain and just had to touch up over the center strip and a couple of tiny touch-ups on the walnut stripes. If you look closely, you can see I've also managed to retain the original finish patina on the fingerboard binding. Here you can see how I've dealt with the end of the neck. If you watched the earlier videos, you will know that an aftermarket pickup, poorly fitted to this guitar, pushed up the end of the neck and created a concave fretboard radius for that last inch or so, making a very high playing action necessary for the strings to clear the resulting hump at the end of the fingerboard. Here I've clamped it to a 12-inch radius block after steaming, and it has certainly removed the hump, and the last fret is no longer concave. I feel a good fret level will now fix the problem, but that will have to wait until the neck is fitted to the body and the truss rod is under tension. Because even with the hump removed and with no tension on the neck, there is still a little bit of relief. This is not to be unexpected from a nearly 70-year-old guitar neck. So I will fit the neck, tweak the truss rod until the fretboard is as straight as possible, then level the frets. Having the neck as straight as possible first will allow for the least amount of material needing to be removed from the frets. I've also been making good progress on the replacement scratch plate with its triple white-black-white binding. Some scraping and polishing, and I think this will look pretty good. It's the first time I've done triple binding on a scratch plate. I've done single layer white binding plenty of times before, but the triple layer means the miter joints have to be perfect. So I think I'm on target to have this guitar back together by this time next week. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the final instalment where I'll play you all a tune or two on this beautiful Swedish Archtop guitar.